is red, white, 3 enchantment. During your upkeep, you put a token on it, which I think you're correct is a muster token.
Yeah.
And then you put a number of soldiers into play, 1/1 soldiers equal to the number of counters.
And I think they have haste.
They do. Turn 1, we got a land from Matt Higgs and Christian Valenti, lays Stromkirk Noble.
And Matt Higgs is going to play another land and pass. Valenti draws Mountain. Probably going to be coming in with that Stromkirk Noble. He's thinking about his play as an Ash Zealot that he could add with haste and attack with both of those.
And Matt Higgs, though, mana open, that is speaking as though he has removal spells. We see an Ash Zealot from Christian Valenti.
Yeah, and we know that Matt Higgs is playing actually Burning Oil, which we're going to see right now, but that is not a card that most people would expect or play around. So Burning Oil going to be used well to take care of the Ash Zealot. Getting the Ash Zealot off the table allows him to flash the Burning Oil back without taking damage.
If you're just joining us, I'm Adrian Sullivan here with Ben Hayes. This is round 2 of the Star City Games Open Series here in Cincinnati. On the left, Matt Higgs with a red, white, black control deck. On the right, Christian Valenti with Tamaharu Saito's red-green aggro list.
You see Boros Reckoner come down for Matt, which is definitely going to be good here.
This is what we were talking about earlier, the Reckoner, and how just terrible it is to face down if you are a red aggro deck. Like, look at this. This is a 2/2 Stromkirk Noble. If he kills that Reckoner with any spells he has available to him, he will lose a creature.
Yeah, and Valenti only really has 4 Searing Spears to take care of that. And as you said, if he chooses to use one, he's going to lose the spear, he's going to lose his creature. It's just going to be a huge speed bump for Valenti, and in a matchup where Matt really wants the game to go longer. And you can see in Matt's hand actually another Reckoner. So looks like Christian's going to take 2 and then Pillar of Flame the Reckoner and
take 2 more.
Take another 2.
Lays a land.
I think they're just confirming that he's still going to take the damage even though it was removed with Pillar of Flame, which he is.
And then Christian passes. Look at that turn of events. Christian has to use 2 cards, loses his entire clock on the table, and Matt Higgs just drops another one.
And Christian took 4 damage in the process, so I believe he took 4 damage. So another Reckoner here, and yeah, Christian's gonna have to find a way to get around that.
There we go.
A Reckoner of his own is
this is a
pretty
classic.
good solution.
What's my answer? Well, I've got the same card. It's like FTK, Flame Tongue Kavu. Well, Flame Tongue Kavu, you're Flame Tongue Kavu. Or more recently, Thragtusk. Okay, well, Thragtusk of my own.
Yeah, and in the case with a lot of these really powerful cards, the best answer just ends up being to play your own.
And Matt, he's like, I'm going to be the beatdown now. I might be a control deck, but today I am the beatdown.
Looks like Matt drew another land after missing a land drop. And there's a Pillar of Flame in hand and a few other cards. He's going to play that Sacred Foundry that he drew untapped and a Trading Post.
Trading Post.
All right.
And now Christian Valenti checking it out.
I believe actually in a Reckoner format, if I'm not mistaken, one of Trading Post's abilities sacrifices a creature.
That's correct.
I think.
Sacrifice a creature to return an artifact from the graveyard to your hand.
So one thing, we were talking about sacrificing creatures earlier. One thing that's nice about that in a format with so many Reckoners is being able to block the Reckoner and then sacrifice the creature so that it doesn't deal any damage to the Reckoner and you're not giving that person more ammo, basically.
For Christian Valenti's deck, the existence of a Trading Post in play is devastating. In game 1, I think the only thing Christian can do to beat that, if Matthew Higgs keeps using the Trading Post, I think the only thing he can do is numerous Hell Riders.
And looking through Matthew's list, he actually has a pretty good solution to Reckoners. He's playing a couple of Augur Spree, which takes care of Reckoner really well, like few cards do right now.
And we see the huge attack from Christian Valenti. He puts a Rancor on his Boros Reckoner, and he gets down a Flinttooth Boar with haste.
So that might be the, just the kind of turn that Christian needed to really swing things back. And Matt misses another land drop.
He does have 4 mana, though, and a Burning Oil in the yard.
Ah, right.
And a Trading Post in play. And Christian's like, what does that do again? 4 life. That's a lot of life.
And 4 life ability is for which trade?
You discard a card
hand, right?
to gain 4 life.
Yeah, and Matt has quite a few cards, so you could see that being pretty important. You can also make blockers, I believe, at the cost of 1 life. You can make a 0/1 to hold off the boar at least. Not so much the Reckoner because it has trample right now. So we see Christian thinking about what play to make. Looks like he has possibly at least 1 land in hand. I would imagine he's going to attack, but this is the, one of the situations we talked about where this single Reckoner is really holding off both creatures, and in a lot of ways, only having the 1 creature on Matt's side is making Christian's Reckoner a little bit less threatening. Christian deciding what to attack with.
Comes in with both of them. Looks like it's for 6. Or for, for 9, or 8.
8,
3,
yeah.
3, and 2 for the Rancor.
Oh, the boar can't decide, and is going in. So see the Reckoner block the boar, and get first strike, probably. Christian may have a response here. He may want to give his own Reckoner first strike, because if he doesn't, Matt's Reckoner can deal damage, and then Matt could potentially cast something on Christian's Reckoner before it has a chance to deal its own damage.
And we get to the regular damage. Christian will be dealing 5, but I believe before that happens, Matt turns some card that I cannot see into 4 life.
Might be an Assemble the Legion. It is a gold card, and it looks sort of like that.
This brings Matt up to 13, and then he takes 5 and goes down to 8. And a second Reckoner.
Oh, wow. So Matt really needs something like an Augur Spree to take care of one of those Reckoners. He also has 1 copy of Sever the Bloodline, which would take his own Reckoner out also, but would be very strong right here to clean those up from Christian.
It was an Assemble the Legion.
One nice thing for Matt in this, well, maybe not so nice. If he does block one of those Reckoners, he's going to take damage from killing the Reckoner, and if he chooses to use his own Reckoner to kill the other Reckoner, he's going to take even more damage. So it's hard to say if he can even afford to interact with those Reckoners.
He casts Pillar of Flames on Christian Valenti's Rancored Reckoner, and Christian redirects the damage to Matt.
Yep. And I think I saw another Pillar of Flame.
He does have one.
We're probably going to see the second one be cast as well to finish that Reckoner off, which will put Matt down to 4, which he can increase back to 8 using Trading Post.
And Christian redirects the second 2 also to Matt. And before anything happens, so that no instance can mess with him, Matt Higgs turns on, looks like another Assemble the Legions, perhaps? Oh, maybe not. How many cards he asks? How many cards you got over there? Christian says 2. Yep, 2. Which is a Rancor and something else.
I think a mountain and a Rancor.
Yep.
Looks like the nice unglued mountain. And looks like Matt's deciding whether or not to activate Trading Post right now, and he will discard his second assembled Legion.
Okay, this puts him back up to 8. He is still in a world of trouble here, honestly. That one attack that he did really punished him.
Yeah, the Flint Hoof Boar coming down and the Rancor getting in 8 damage. If he'd left the Reckoner back that turn, it could be a different situation.
Yeah.
And here, even blocking this Reckoner, it has the potential to get trample, and he could be, almost dead in this combat, depending on what Christian drew.
Yeah, the Rancor plus the Reckoner, that's 5 damage. 2 would trample over Matt's Reckoner, and then it would deal another 3 damage from the triggered ability. That would knock Matt down to 3.
Yeah, and it looks like Christian has 2 mountains, so actually this Trading Post
is about to take over.
Yeah, if the board gets cleared up, which it looks like it's about to be, the Trading Post could really just, like you said, take over and put Matt back into this game.
We see them both put first strike on.
So Christian looks like he's going to redirect his Reckoner's damage. Both Reckoners. Looks like there might be a little confusion. I think both Reckoners are redirecting their abilities to each of the players. So as Adrian said, 2 trample damage and 3 additional damage is going to put Matt to 3. It looks like Christian dropped to 12.
And right here is the beginning of what I would call bad times for Christian Valenti. If you're old school, bad times for Becky.
And we're going to see...
Blind Obedience, I think? Is that right?
It looks like
3 mana.
Orzhov Keyrune. Yeah, it is Orzhov Keyrune.
A singleton Orzhov Keyrune. I thought he was going to put a Blind Obedience into play and then gain 4 life, but that is not what it was.
He does have 1 card, though, that he can use with that Trading Post to gain 4 life here, if he chooses to.
That's very risky to me. He's at 3 life right now. Gain 4 life, and then, oops, I'm dead. Dangerous.
Yeah.
And now he's asking himself, he asked Christian, like, how many cards you got?
Yeah, although he's putting himself in a situation here where every turn he chooses not to do that is another turn where Christian could draw a spell if he doesn't already have one. So it's a choice between does he have one and am I going to prevent him from using it, or does he not have one and am I giving him time to draw something?
Absolutely.
And looks like Christian has just 4 Searing Spears that can do those 3 damage, but Matt doesn't know that. I mean, Christian could have Searing Spear, Skull Crack, any number of cards that could finish him off.
Brimstone Volley.
Yeah, exactly. So we see Matt drew a Sever the Bloodline. Christian's Noble is being held off by that Keyrune played a bit earlier.
And Matt still not doing anything. He's got another Boris Reckoner in his hand, which he drops immediately.
Okay, Christian has, looks like 3 lands, and his last card might be a Rancor. Looks like he drew a spell that turn. But he has at least 3 lands in hand. So Matt has a decent amount of cards. If he does choose to start activating that Trading Post, he could put this game pretty far out of reach.
Yeah, once he gets above 3 life, like he doesn't do it again, he wants to. You keep on seeing him pausing. He wants to because it would be really nice to have that life.
Yeah, I think he's looking for an opportunity where he can attack with the Keyrune to put himself up to 4. Or maybe not. I think he's looking to be at more than 3 when he activates.
Oh,
the
absolutely,
trading
I'm with
post.
you.
But how he's going to get there, it's a little
Matt
bit of a
is
mystery.
a very aggressive player.
Yeah.
I mean, he already
So
knows that there are
sends that
Flinttooth
in.
boars in this deck.
Yeah, this is reminiscent of the earlier turns where he attacked with Boros Reckoners, then was punished by it. I mean, we know Christian doesn't have anything right now, but I think I see
he
another.
wants to cast the Legion.
There is
Assemble
another
the
Assemble the
Legion.
Legion, which at this point in the game may not end up mattering as much because I don't see this game going too many more turns. Though it could if the trading post starts to get activated. And it looks like you drew a High Priest of Penance, which could take care of that Noble at least. And he will cast that High Priest and attacking with Boros Reckoner, I believe, drops Christian down to 6. Yeah. And looks like Christian drew another... I think he drew a spell. He's got about 6 cards in hand now, playing a land, and casting. We may see another Boros Reckoner. Or, can't quite tell what that card is.
It's a Reckoner.
It is a Boros Reckoner.
Ouch! Okay, now I think what Matt has to do here is just pull the trigger and find out if Christian has the Searing Spear or not.
Yeah, I mean...
That turn where he didn't do it immediately that I thought he was going to, like, that was such a key moment because now he's living in fear of that spear.
Yeah, I mean, that was, 3 or 4 turns ago, and given the amount of cards that he has in his hand, he could really be up to, as much as 15 by now. And the Sever can't take out the Reckoner without taking out his own Reckoner. And if he does think Christian has a Searing Spear, then there aren't that many good options. Trying to get himself up to 4 using the Orzhov Key Rune is still something that's on the table. Although now if he chooses to attack with it, Christian can block with the Reckoner and immediately put him back down to 3. And so we'll see what Matt comes out of the tank with here. And attack with the High Priest. I think, I guess he's looking to either get rid of the Reckoner or put Christian down to 5. We could end up in a funny situation where the 2 lethal Boros Reckoner triggers go in the stack for each player, and then it would depend on whose turn it was at the time. Who would win in that case would depend on whose turn it was.
For a quick rules check on these styles of things, one way to remember it is APNAP, active player, not active player. That is the order in which triggers go on the stack. Active player, it's the player whose turn it is. They are the one who puts the triggers on first if there's a numerous amount of triggers that are going on. So if it's not your turn, you have the advantage on those kinds of conflicts.
Yeah.
APNAP.
So Christian's trigger would go on, and then Matt's trigger would go on, and they would resolve in the reverse order, and Matt's damage trigger would happen first. If there was a situation where both Boros Reckoners took damage equal to the number of, the same amount of life that their opponents had. So this game is pretty tight, despite Matt having had this trading post in play for quite a while.
Yeah, it was all that one turn where he did not activate.
Yeah, he's basically using it as insurance against a single burn spell instead of using it to get ahead because he's worried about losing in response to activating it.
Yeah, now he's at that point where he's afraid to use it.
Yeah, and your opponent having that Searing Spear or that Skullcrack is a real concern, but at the same time, is that a risk you take at a certain point to prevent losing in other ways.
Well, I mean, it depends on where you think the game is at, right? If you think that you've got the game right now, all you need is that insurance policy.
Yeah.
If you don't think you have the game, then, you know...
And it did look like he had the game pretty well in hand until Christian started drawing a few more creatures, and now it's a little closer. Matt is at 3, so that Boros Reckoner is very dangerous. Well, Christian's at 5, so both Boros Reckoners are pretty dangerous. And it looks like Matt may have drawn
Is that a Blasphemous Act?
Blasphemous Act.
Let's see, a Blasphemous Act
So,
is 5 cheaper than normal.
yeah. He could... Well, I guess if he casts it on his own turn...
Which you would have to.
yeah, since it's a sorcery, the situation that we just described would come up where his trigger would go on the stack, then Christian's trigger would go on the stack, and Christian would win that exchange with his Boros Reckoner, because neither of them can survive 13 damage right now.
Now, Christian, Cackler.
And I wouldn't be surprised if he didn't unleash, just to have an extra blocker, if it comes to that.
I would definitely have that in my mind as something to consider.
Yeah.
Kudos, by the way, to Wizards of the Coast for the Unleash mechanic. It's, I think, very flavorful for Rakdos, and also very interesting. Oh boy.
6 mana. Is he gonna... He may have drawn something, but I see...
That is Staff of Nin, I believe. I think that's alternate art Staff of Nin?
Okay. Yeah. Probably. I don't see anything else that costs 6 mana that would be.
If you know what that card is via the top of your head, please tweet to us at SCG Live. I know that for me, alternate art stuff is one of my big weaknesses. So I believe that's Staff of Nin, though.
Yeah, and Matt has... yeah, is that a regular trading post, or is that also an alternate art trading?
I believe that's a regular trading post.
Regular one. Okay.
In play for Matt Higgs, going from top to bottom, is a Orzhov Keyrune trading post. Boros Reckoner, Assemble... No, that's not Assemble the Legion. No, that's the High Priest.
Yeah.
The High Priest of Penance. And I believe a Staff of Nin there on the bottom.
Which at these life totals is could make quick
That
work
is Staff of
Christian.
Nin, absolutely.
Yep.
On the other side of the table, we can see an unleashed Rakdos Cackler, a Ash Zealot, Boros Reckoner, the king of the format, and Stromkirk Noble, doing what it usually does in Magic these days, 0 or 1 damage.
And Staff of Nin, for anyone who doesn't know, is a 6 mana artifact that can tap to deal 1 damage to a creature or player, but also makes you draw an extra card at the beginning of your turn. So it can take care of Christian pretty quickly here. It's also going to give Matt more cards and generally more options.
Some people have jokingly called Staff of Nin the colorless Planeswalker, because it really does feel like it's a Planeswalker the way that it affects games.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it sits there and has those abilities every turn and really takes over if it's in play for, even just a turn or two. Rancor. Yes. Rancor's getting cast on Ash Zealot, and a second Rancor.
Is Christian Valenti making his move?
I mean, he may have to at this point with that Staff of Nin down now.
Oh my god, and he's got a Pillar of Flame in play, or in hand.
So...
It's close. It is close right now.
The thing Christian has to keep in mind is Matt can target his own High Priest with that staff to, at instant speed, destroy any non-land permanent.
This is a very good point. Pillar of Flame takes Matt Higgs down to 1. In comes the Rancored creatures. Oh, in comes everybody. That's better.
Everyone. Okay, and if in the case of First Strike and Trample with Boros Reckoner, the trample damage would happen before, essentially, the trigger went on.
Yes.
So if he blocks this Ash Zealot, for example, with his Boros Reckoner, he would be at 0 life and the trigger would be irrelevant when it did come up. So I think we may see Matt activate his trading post here.
I think it might not be enough. Okay, so things he can do. He can block the Boros Reckoner with his High Priest, and then after having blocked it, what he can do is ping his High Priest with the Staff of Nin to take care of another attacker, and that costs him 0 mana to do that. Have his Boros Reckoner block the Zealot?
Yes.
Not the Zealot, the Cackler. And then gain 4 life with the mana that he's got left. With the High Priest taking out the Ash Zealot, Matt would take 1, gain 4.
Oh, and actually...
he would take 2. Pardon me, take 2. What were you going to say?
He would take 5 here. I was going to say...
No, he would take... Because if he blocks and pokes his own High Priest, the Ash Zealot deals 0.
The Ash Zealot has Trample right now, so...
But it would deal 0 because it would be dead from the High Priest, is what I'm saying.
Oh, if he kills the High Priest.
Yes,
yeah.
yes.
I was just going to mention that I think the life gain ability on Trading Post costs 1 mana.
It does.
So he's not... Matt is not going to be able to give his Boros Reckoner First Strike if he chooses to activate the Trading Post.
And here he gains the life now before anything untoward happens. And he's at 5. Pokes his High Priest. The High Priest takes 1 damage, and so it kills a creature, or it kills a permanent.
Okay, it looks like he's going to take 1 from the Zealot and 1 from the Noble.
And 3 damage is dealt to something by the Reckoner trigger.
Yeah, so he may have survived that turn. As long as he doesn't target Christian's Reckoner with his Reckoner. So we'll see how this all plays out. I don't believe Christian has anything else in hand. No, just a couple of Mountains and a Rancor.
Right now we're waiting for First Strike damage to happen. He's like, 3-1. Ooh, where's he going to go with it? He goes and hits the Noble with it. The Noble will not deal any damage then.
So I guess that's because he wanted to go down to 4 instead of 3 to continue to play around a potential 3 damage spell that Christian might have.
And he's deciding, yeah, he goes and gets the Noble. He has indicated the Noble. He only takes 1 damage then.
Yeah, ends up at 4. He does have the Trading Post and the Staff of Nin, but we'll see what he draws, because Christian is left with a couple of creatures, and...
I mean, I think Matt, if he had hit Christian's face, would have won on this next turn.
Yeah, if he had dealt 4 to Christian, and then Staff of Nin
and he draws 1, and then he has the other.
So we see a Blasphemous Act, Sever the Bloodline, and a couple other cards. He is thinking about what to do.
Remember, go ahead.
Throwing some lands around.
Rancor is currently in Christian Valenti's hand.
So yeah, either one of these creatures is potentially lethal. And we're going to see 4 mana, maybe not 4 mana. 4 mana again, and looks like he's thinking about Sever the Bloodline on the Ash Zealot.
On the Ash Zealot.
It's an interesting choice. So Christian will have 2 Rancors now to put on that Reckoner. And I think that's a Rakdos key rune in Matt's hand along with that Blasphemous Act from earlier. So Matt can activate his key rune to block. But it looks like Christian drew another Ash Zealot. Wow. So Matt can block with the key rune and use it to activate Trading Post. So he can potentially be at 8 here, but this is going to be a lot of damage coming over from Christian. And Rancor on the Ash Zealot. And I think that last card in Matt's hand is another Assemble the Legion. And Rancor on the Reckoner.
Orzhov key rune is a 1/4 when activated, and it has lifelink. So...
Right, in the case of both these creatures, though, one has First Strike and one can get First Strike. So the lifelink is probably not going to come up. If it does hit the Reckoner, it's going to be canceled out anyway.
We see a Rancor on each of the creatures, and in they come.
I think that Matt... Yeah, I mean, his only play seems to be activating that, and...
Activate block, and then tap after the block to activate the trading post to gain 4 life. You see the First Strike activated on Christian's side. Matt discards Assemble the Legion.
Yep. So his hand now is Blasphemous Act and Rakdos key rune.
First Strike. Matt tries to gain a life, and Christian's like, no, First Strike, dude.
Yeah. So Matt's going to take 5, going
3.
down to 3.
And now he has to know, he didn't ping.
Didn't use the staff.
He didn't ping.
Oh, that's important.
That is a High Priest of Penance. And then his regular draw.
And a land. So he has Key Rune, High Priest.
That was actually really good for him.
And a Blasphemous Act. Yeah, this High Priest is going to do a lot of work. Both the creatures do have Trample. But he'll at least be able to take care of one of them. And he looks like he didn't play that land, which he's had, he's been a little short on mana on a couple of these turns, so that's an interesting choice. And it looks like Christian drew what looks like a land. In either of these cases, if he blocks and then we're going to see 4 mana.
What's he doing? Oh, Doctor.
I don't think...
Boom!
Oh. Yeah. Okay.
Oh.
Wow.
Okay, so if you're not sure what happened there, Matt Higgs, I think you can see the stress in his face. He knows that he did wrong. He didn't mean to do wrong. What he did is he flashed back Burning Oil, and Christian Valenti did not forget to use the triggered ability of his Ash Zealot and say, well, then you're going to take some damage.
Yeah, and it was exactly 3 to take out Matt, and he didn't have any mana left to activate Trading Post in response.
Yeah.
So the 3 damage that Matt was playing around all game ended up coming from on board. So
it was a big deal. Now, 2 things were critical junctures, I think, in that match. We saw how many cards that Matt Higgs had in his hand at the end of the game. He had 3 cards in his hand at the end of the game. And we were talking earlier at that one moment where the board cleared about how Matt could take over right there. That was the second turn in which I think the game hinged. If he had gained 4 life right then and there, he would not have been running scared to gain 4 life for fear of dying to Searing Spear or other 3 damage spells later. And that would have been enough, I think, for him to have defeated Christian Valenti, because he would have easily been able to have access to 8 more life at that point in the game and still have cards in his hand.
Yeah, there were 2 or 3 turns there after that turn, so a total of 3 or 4 turns where he was leaving the Trading Post up to play around Searing Spear, and Christian did have 2 cards in his hand at the time, I believe.
He had 2 spells in his hand, but he had like 6 cards in his hand. He had been sandbagging a ton of land, like 5 or 6 cards in his hand.
Right, Matt did.
Christian. Matt
Christian had the 2 mountains in hand.
Yeah.
At the time that Matt chose.
You're right. Matt had 2 cards. Yeah.
Yeah, at the time that he chose to play around it, and then after he chose to take that line, he was forced to leave or not forced to, but going along with that, left the trading post up for a number of turns there, when he really did have extra cards that could have each been 4 life.
Absolutely.
And eventually he was forced to use the trading post by Christian just building another army and attacking, and at that point, he had forfeited too many activations of trading post to stay in the game.
Yeah. The other turn, that was the second turn in which I think the game hinged. The other turn in which the game hinged is the turn where Matt Higgs attacked with his Boros Reckoner. And he looked like he was in a good racing position. He had a trading post out. His opponent had out a Boros Reckoner of their own. And he was like, you know what? I'm winning this race. I'm going to offer him a trade Reckoner for Reckoner. And he won't take it, and I'm just going to be ahead on the race. And on the next turn, Christian Valenti's response was, well, here's a Flintoff Boar with haste, here's a Rancor.
So Christian's off to another quick start with Rakdos Cackler Unleashed. Matt just passes. This could represent Burning Oil. Matt has a couple more removal spells in his sideboard, a couple of ultimate prices, and potential. Oh, he has a Osbodot Ghost Council.
And also, Christian Valenti drops Ash Zealot, which promptly gets Burning Oiled, and he has to face down on turn 3. Matt Higgs lays Lingering Souls for 2 damage off of a Sacred Foundry. Matt is in a little bit of trouble here. Only 13 and a half minutes remain. Well, almost 14 minutes remain, and he's got to win 2 games.
Yeah, their game 1 went very long. Lots of really complex turns with multiple Boros Reckoners, both players at low life. It was an exciting game that ended up just ending pretty suddenly with a Ash Zealot trigger.
Oh my goodness gracious.
Oh wow. So we see Volcanic Strength, which Christian has 4 of in his sideboard, and that Cackler is looking to make short work of Matt. Looks like Matt actually has an ultimate price in hand that can't target the Cackler, although I think I also saw an Augur Spree.
I did see an Augur Spree.
So we're going to see that most likely take down this Cackler before it does too much more damage.
And maybe we are wrong and we don't see it? Oh no, he's right. Yeah, we did not see it. That is not a Augur Spree. Or if it is, Matt has a lot of patience.
Yeah.
Boros Reckoner.
Okay, so Reckoner there.
It has to not be an Augur Spree. We had to have misseen it.
Oh, it may be a... it could be a Rakdos return, actually. Oh no. Rakdos Keyring. Not sure what that card would be then.
Okay, in hand I see a Newfangled Blood Crypt. I see a High Priest of Penance.
Takes 2 from that Blood Crypt.
Oh, he's almost dead. This does mean he has the ability to activate his Vault of the Archangel, which is sneakily hiding there amongst the lands.
Yeah, but he can only block 1 of those creatures, so we'll see how that works out.
And the triggered ability of Boros...
Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
He didn't have black mana.
Oh.
He had 2 Sacred Foundries and a Clifftopper.
And now, so he did have the Augur Spree, he just did not have black mana until this moment.
Wow, that's pretty huge. And blocking...
Now we see the Augur Spree.
Okay. That makes more sense. And Valenti thinking about possibly responding to that. Can't see what's in his hand.
Dead Cackler, but it has done its job. And Boros... Oh, wow.
Another
Reckoner. And I'm not sure if Christian forgot the 1 damage redirect or if he just did it to the face.
He pointed at the Spirit, which I'm not sure what happened there exactly. He didn't give it first strike. We see a little bit of a comical blasphemous act that Matt drew, which would not be a good option here.
High Priest.
We see that ultimate price really not being able to target anything so far in this game, with Cackler and Reckoner both being multicolor.
Christian Valenti with 5, count 'em, 5 land in play. He is playing a classic 20 land red deck.
Yeah, I think I saw at least one green card in his hand, and not sure he has access to green mana. Oh, but a Hellrider.
Oh my goodness. Well, there's something to price, but he doesn't have the black mana open.
Yep.
I think that's all she wrote.
Yeah, that's 3 damage, and any one of those is going to come through for another 3. So...
anything sneaky? Any good tricks?
I see a Staff of Nin, an ultimate price. There's a Burning Oil in the graveyard, but its flashback cost is 4. And Valenti. Yep. And Christian takes that match. So a quick draw, helped out a lot by Volcanic Strength. And Christian takes it down 2-0.
Christian Valenti, mainstay in the Star City Games Open Series circuit.